This is your Daily 5 for Thursday, June 11th, 2026. As of this recording, the most recent release over on the Red Letter Media channel is a Half in the Bag, which is their version of a review episode. It is a first run review because they also have review. But Half in the Bag is typically their review show about newer releases. And one of the ones the one that they most recently covered is the Masters of the Universe movie. And in the opening, they're discussing the timing of the movie and how it probably is not correctly timed to be successful because He-Man is a kind of legacy property and it probably should have been released 10 to 15 years ago. And they go into that for a while, and all of what they're saying I don't disagree with necessarily, except for the foundational premise that He-Man requires any kind of timing. Because here's the thing, as they talk about in that episode, He-Man, if you're not familiar, was originally going to be toys based on the Conan the Barbarian property. So basically fantasy muscle men toys. And really boiled down to big muscle men or big muscle people, because there were females. So big muscle people fighting bad muscle people. That's the whole thing. That's what He-Man is. The cartoon came afterwards and started to add story, and I put quotes around story when I say that, because He-Man has never, ever, ever been known for having a particularly deep story. I couldn't tell you anything, and I watched He-Man when I was younger. I had the toys. I loved the villains. The villain toys were the best thing about it. Much like Batman, although Batman's a good character, He-Man was defined by how awesome the villains were. Now, in reality, the awesomeness of the villains is because the toy company Mattel figured out that if you just keep making villains, you can basically just keep selling new versions of the toy. There's a reason that Faker is basically just He-Man with blue skin and red hair, because it's pretty cheap to just repaint a mold you're already using. Also note how many of He-Man's villains have his exact same body type. That should start to tell you what was actually going on. But in terms of the cartoon, there was barely anything there. Skeletor does bad thing, He-Man has to stop him. Or Skeletor's minions do bad thing, He-Man's people have to stop him. That's it. And because there is no real deep lore that people who grew up with that cartoon and those toys really have any adherence to, I mean, I'm not going to say there's nobody, but it's going to be a very small amount. Because that doesn't exist, I don't know that any timing matters for a He-Man film. I would argue that people who have no idea what He-Man is, if the trailer is enticing and the movie is a lot of fun, which it does sound like it's actually a fun movie, which is sort of astonishing to me, then I think people are going to watch it, and they're not going to care if this thing clashes or contradicts earlier lore of He-Man. Really? Do you think anybody cares that much about He-Man? Again, I'm sure somebody does, but that group of people is probably exceptionally narrow, and my bet is they're still going to see this movie, if only to whine about it, but also because there's not much else in terms of He-Man happening right now in live action. So it's also a movie where you could just get in, and because, again, the lore is so thin, you don't have to worry about knowing anything. If you walk into a He-Man movie cold, the new one, or even the old one, I guess, and you don't know anything about it, you're still going to get it. Somebody's not going to have to read a book. It's not like a Marvel film where if you come in on movie 32, you have no idea why some character is referred to with reverence because he died in movie 16, or because this giant thing happened to the whole planet that everybody knows about except you because you missed the first 30 movies. No, He-Man is, again, big, fit, nice-looking people beating up on evil, fit, evil-looking people, I guess. That's all you need to know. It's exceptionally basic in its structure, and that's what gives it the ability to just be made whenever. So, this is not me saying Red Letter Media guys are morons or anything. It's not what this is at all. But I think they are overestimating the weight of the He-Man lore in terms of its ability to appeal to an audience and be successful as a film. I really think as long as the movie is watchable, baseline watchable, then nobody's going to, look, Mortal Kombat doesn't even have really a coherent story. And I would argue that that series lore is more important to its films than He-Man. I'm struggling to think what cartoon series from my youth might have less that was popular, that might have less that's important in getting right in translating outside of the visuals themselves other than He-Man. So, I don't necessarily think that a Masters of the Universe movie's timing matters at all because, again, if it was going to matter, you'd need a lot of story, and that's not something that He-Man ever had. Later.